Hello, everyone. Welcome to Papa Hector's podcast. We're really excited today to have a special guest with us, Michele Blood. And we get into that, where, as always, check out this post as well as all the other posts at hectorsalva.com where you get the free newsletter as well as everything on social media. And you can listen to this podcast at Google Podcasts as well as iTunes, Apple Podcasts. So,
Uh,
Michele Blood, hi.
Hector, I can only hear the second to third word. It's coming in and out, your voice.
Okay, so let me see if I can use this mic here.
Or just speak closer to the audio mic on the computer, perhaps.
Is this better?
Much better. Fantastic.
Awesome. All right. So, hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to Papa Hector's podcast. Today we have a special guest, Michele Blood. And as always, you can check us out on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and at hectorsalva.com. Now, I'm really excited to have Michele Blood here on our show with us. She's an enlightened mystic who's written, from what I understand, lots of books, as well as traveled all over the world helping people on their mystical path and journey. So, Michele, could you introduce yourself to us?
Yes, Hector, it's wonderful to be here with you today. This is Michele Blood, and I am very enthusiastic about sharing positive message on spirituality and what people can do to uplift themselves during this time on your wonderfully positive podcast.
Oh, that's awesome. So, what we would like to know is what brought you onto the mystical path and the path of enlightenment?
Good question. Have you got a couple of days? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, well, I'll just share a little about my background. I'll do this as quickly as possible, but it's an interesting story, and I pray that some people can relate to it in some way. I was living my life in a way that I absolutely loved. I had all the ups and downs of life, but I was a singer, songwriter, and after many years of having many different bands, I finally got a band together that was really good. And we toured all over Australia and did records, which they were called back then, CDs. And, we ended up having lots of huge crowds, and it was really quite a thing, because it's very, very challenging to tour around Australia as a female singer, because it's very rough on the roads. It's sometimes 12 to 15 hours between each gig, because Australia's such a huge place, which is such a small population. But I loved it. It was worth every moment just to get up on that stage, because I'd been singing on TV since I was 5 years of age. And so I loved it. I wasn't looking at any purpose in my life or anything in particular, because that was my purpose. I was doing what I loved to do. And even rough times, it was always worth it, because when you find something that you absolutely are enthusiastic about, well, then you know that that's your purpose. It's like one of those funny Monty Python jokes where it's like the guy, John Cleese joke probably, I'd say, where the guy says, well, how do you know if you're good at something? Well, because you're good at it, you see. So you know it's your purpose. Well, how do you know otherwise? Well, you're not very good at it, you see. So it's not. You've got to become very good at it for you to know that you're good at it. Nothing to do with ego. You've just become good at it, you silly, silly person. So if anyone doesn't know who Monty Python is, look up some old sketches or watch The Life of Brian or The Meaning of Life or The Holy Grail, and you'll end up laughing, hopefully, your bum off, because it's very, very good. Anywho, so on my way home from a gig one night, that is what the bands call where they're playing. Everyone's like, I'm cool, Michelle. I know it's called a gig. Anyway, I had a car accident. The driver fell asleep at the wheel because, as I said earlier, long drives in between the gigs, in between towns. And so I was really badly broken up. I won't go into all the details, but it was pretty horrific. I was in hospital for months and many, many long operations, told I may not be able to walk again. If I did, I would have many physical limitations and a bad limp and all this horrible stuff. And I was like a sort of acrobatic on stage. I just went I'd jump up on the speakers and do cartwheels. I was like crazy performer. I loved it. And I sort of got, for the first time, depressed. I mean, I would get in my lifetime mad about something or a little irritated, but never depressed, never. And I was almost suicidal, but I couldn't move to do anything about it in the hospital. So people were bringing me what they said were motivational tapes and positive thinking tapes, and I'd never heard of anything like that because I'd never required it. So I wasn't seeking. I thought I'd found what I was, my purpose was. So I had an epiphany. Something happened from something really, really weird. Do you want to hear what that is, Hector?
Definitely.
Okay, alrighty. There was a book written by a motivational author, speaker, probably 100 years ago, nearly 100 years ago, called Napoleon Hill. And the book was called Think and Grow Rich. And it was about all these entrepreneurial male businessmen like Henry Ford and all those sort of people who I didn't give a crap about. Why would I? Australian young female singer in Australia, pop singer. And so I'm listening to this tape that was put on and I couldn't turn it off because I couldn't move. Do you know how irritating that can be? When you're in a certain resonance, you're resonating at a certain vibration and people come in and they're all positive and happy and you just want to say, piss off, Get out of my sight. Leave me alone, I'm depressed. You want to be around the people that will go, oh, yes, sweetie, you poor darling, I feel so sorry for you. Oh, my God, yes, I agree, life sucks. But when you don't have that happen and they're bringing in all this positive stuff, and I was so annoyed, but, you're nice to people that are strangers. Usually if it's family, you can tell them to piss off, but otherwise it's the people you don't know that well that you're the most polite to, correct? So something happened when Napoleon Hill was talking. These were audiobooks, obviously. He was talking about his son who was born with no ears, couldn't hear. And he would do what he called, I'd never heard of autosuggestion or affirmations. He would do this autosuggestion, these affirmations, into his little infant son's ear. Every night he would say, you can hear perfectly. You're a great person. Oh, for years he did this. And Napoleon Hill's son grew up to be able to hear 30%, which was impossible apparently, and ended up helping the hearing aid industry and became a great entrepreneur and successful in the hearing aid industry with eventually, of course, 100% hearing because of the hearing aid. But there was something within me that clicked. That kind of made sense to me. I sort of looked back on my life and I thought, I don't normally look back, but when I think about all the things that have manifested in my life, I willed them. I never for a moment doubted that I could get a record company, that I could get the best musicians. I just never ever doubted. I never thought about it. I just knew that I could do it. So I said, okay, if I always knew I could do that, and Napoleon Hill, there's something about this story, I believe it's true, well then I'm going to do what he says. I'm going to do an affirmation, a positive affirmation, because Napoleon Hill said it's got to be stated in the now, in the moment, in the now, as if it's already happened, even if it hasn't happened. And because the subconscious mind only knows this moment, and it has to be emotionalized, and it has to be positive. I said, okay, well, I'll say I'm healed, because I'm being told I won't be healed, but I'll not going to die, but I'm not going to, live the way I did. So I said, I am healed. Didn't believe that. I know I am, because I said I know I am, because I didn't know I was. I love myself. I am my friend, because when you're feeling suicidal and depressed, you definitely don't love yourself and you're not your friend. So I'd say it over and over again. And I was like, oh, this is not working. I cannot emotionalize this because I don't believe it. And he said, it's got to go into the treasury of your subconscious mind to be planted. And then it will grow into a tree and it will come to fruition and manifest whatever that thing is that you're affirming into your life. But you have to emotionalize it. Couldn't do it, Hector. Could not do it. I was in too much pain and I believed everything the doctor said to me, because why wouldn't you? And then the greatest thing in my life happened. I realized you're a singer-songwriter. I'd even written jingles for advertising agencies over the years, which wasn't a cool thing to advertise back then, but it was extra money, And it's like, you can't get a jingle out of your head, can you? Even if you want to, you can't. There are certain jingles, advertising agencies spend billions, not millions, on jingles because they know the product will stay within the person's mind forever, even if they don't like Toyota. You want it, you got it, Toyota. Anyway, all the Vegemite songs from Australia. Why do Australians love Vegemite? 'Cause we're happy little Vegemites, as happy as can be. We all enjoy our Vegemite for breakfast, lunch and tea. And anyone else in the world will tell you Vegemite sucks, but every Australian loves it because of the jingle. So I said, I'll just sing it. I'll sing my affirmation onto a little recording. I can't move, but I can still sing from where I am. And I'll just sing it over and over, and then I'll listen back to it. And that's how Musivation and Affirmation Power began. I am healed, I know I am. I love myself, I am my friend. And I had miraculous healing, Hector. I mean, I still had steel plates. I still am extremely grateful for those wonderful surgeons who know how to put steel plates in people's bodies. But the rest of the parts that they said couldn't be healed, became healed. And I know it was because of that. But the amazing thing that happened because of that, I'll continue with your next question.
Yeah. The amazing thing that happened because of that, right, is that it started you on a whole new journey, correct? And in that new journey, what did you find for yourself?
Well, it was like a whole world that I hadn't seen before opened up. Because what I've found during my life is, even when someone has found something that they really love to do, they're still in a sort of a mind warp of this is how it's done, and not a lot of new things are created. You just do what the record company say, or whatever the accountant people say, whatever your job is, your career, you do it the way you're told to do it. And all of a sudden, new ideas would come to me. Why aren't we selling merchandise? Why aren't we making our own CDs and selling them at the back of the room? Why aren't we doing this or that? Because the record companies say you can't. But is it illegal to? No. I mean, then what happened, some Australian TV shows and radio shows heard about me, because not a famous singer, but I was, well known enough for them to find out what had happened to me. And so I started writing a lot more affirmation songs about persistence and happiness and being a magnet to money and all these different things. And all these things would just start manifesting so quickly into my experience that these promoters who promoted Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Dr. Deepak Chopra, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Stuart Wilde, on and on and on it goes, all hired me to come and sing at their huge motivational events, which I'd never even heard of things like that before, because I'd never needed something like that. It wasn't in my hemisphere. And so they'd get me to come up and talk a little bit about how the affirmations had healed my body, and then get everybody to sing along to the affirmation songs. And the first person who really got it was Dr. Deepak Chopra. He said to me, Michele, he said, because we're touring all around Australia, so we'd have dinner every night together. And he said, this is really what we all teach, positive thinking through auto-suggestion. He said, but with music, it's so much faster. I can see how the audiences are immediately uplifted. And then Bob Proctor, when I ended up working with him, he didn't want a singer on his program. He said, look, I'm Bob Proctor. I don't want a singer. I have huge audiences all over the world. And then after the first night, he came up to me and he said the same thing that Deepak Chopra said. This is what I've been teaching for years. This is how I became a millionaire. This is how my life completely changed from depression and horrible work. He said, because of auto-suggestion, because of Think and Grow Rich. But it takes so much longer and you have to be so persistent. But with the music, it goes straight into your subconscious mind. You don't have to emotionalize it. I want to work with you, young lady. Obviously, this was a long time ago. And I want to write music with you. And I end up touring all over the world with him, doing great things in Asia, helping him with his business as well, and seeing people from all walks of life have their life improved. So that's how Affirmation Power and Musivation, that's how that began. And that is actually when my spiritual journey began. It wasn't before that.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. That's absolutely amazing. So you started Musivation and started putting out your music and touring the world with everyone. And then you came upon a time where you went deeper into your path, right? And what was it that brought you there?
Well, I know now exactly what brought me there, and thank you for asking, because I mean, I realize now that the purpose in life is enlightenment. It is to have your Kundalini awaken, to be free of fear, to absolutely, literally live in the moment, like an ongoing flow. So to get to that point, you have to have something that's happened to you, or you have to be resonating at quite a fast frequency in vibration. And so because of the affirmation music, and I was doing it all the time, not just for myself, but for all these audiences in over 36 countries, actually. Someone said 26, but it was over 36 countries. Who cares? And my vibration was becoming so much, the frequency, I felt what I now know is Shakti, tingles through my head all the time, wave of ecstasy. I started meditating. I started feeling like my heart was out of my chest, what I used to call heart glow. And it was just intense. So I was like, what is this? I know it must be God. It must be spirit. And I started searching for someone who knew God. I didn't know that that was what was called enlightenment. And I met a lot of Indian gurus and Tibetan, different people from all, had amazing spiritual experiences on my own, but it was still outside of myself. I was still searching for something outside of myself, because my purpose, I realized, was, yes, to uplift people, but my main purpose was to find God, the divine, whatever you choose to call it. And eventually what happened was a friend of mine, John, introduced me to, he had what he called an enlightened teacher. This is by the time I'd moved to America. And I sort of started looking up what that meant. And I mean, I've been reading Swami Muktananda and Yogananda and all of these people that I knew were enlightened, but I never ever thought that someone from the West could become enlightened for some reason. I was like, this is an American man? He's like, yeah, just an American guy. He's a great Mahasiddha, a great enlightened being. He's left the body now, but I've just been told that one of the many thousands of students, this young woman, has also become enlightened, and I can really feel that you're very sensitive to this. So come to this event. It was in Balboa Park in San Diego. She called herself Kundalini. And I thought I was seeing things. Tears started coming into my eyes. I thought I saw her hands glowing. I didn't know what was going on. She's just on a little stage. There's no lighting or anything. And I knew that this person knew God. And so I was very blessed that she accepted me as a student. And someone who's enlightened, whose Kundalini has awakened, they're plugged in to that divine moment, if you want to call it that eternal truth. And it is high and it's bright. And so I did so much meditation practice, had so many experiences, starting the biggest one was like going through a Stargate. It was just like going through a Stargate. No one had ever told me about it, never read about it. It just had happened to me. No wonder I used to like watching the Stargate movie over and over again, because it's in consciousness, right? And so eventually my Kundalini completely awakened. You know, it came up the Sushumna. People can look that up in more detail if they'd like, or I could talk about it now. But that is what happened. And then I realized, Hector, that everything that I had done in my life, all the things, the singing, the teaching, the being used to being on stage, was all to get me to this point, to be able to reach people that maybe can't relate to people that are, you know, enlightened older gurus or something from another language, and to teach them in a really fun way that this is for anyone. If it can happen to me, it can happen for anybody. So then I started what's called the Mystical Experience. You just go to themysticalexperience.com, and I started inviting people to come on webinars and live streams from all the different places, from all over the world. Started doing a lot of YouTube videos, and people were starting to be really attracted. They could feel the Shakti. I started praying for these people, and they said amazing, miraculous things were happening in their life, and I knew it wasn't me. I knew it was my intention for them to have God govern their lives. Because if the divine is governing their life, well, then their old ideal of the Maya of the collective consciousness that's been holding them back will eventually clear, like it had for me. And so that's what I do now. We have doctors, lawyers, musicians, young people, older people, just all different walks of life that are learning how to meditate, now learning how to transmit light themselves to awaken this world. You don't have to be religious to do this at all. You just have to want to have a better life, because everyone's a spiritual being, even if they don't realize it.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, because it's really exactly the same thing that we do here. And like like you said, a lot of people don't know that in the West there are other teachings other than Hindu teachings that lead to enlightenment, which is actually what I do, is teach those teachings and transmit those teachings as well as those wisdoms in order to reach enlightenment. Because really, the true purpose is to unify oneself with the divine.
That is the only purpose. Everything else is just how we get there, is our attitude towards it. And it's so wonderful to be speaking with someone who understands truth and also teaches truth. It, what you just said has touched my heart so deeply, Hector.
Yeah, because, when someone has the divine, when they have that unity with the divine, the anxiety falls away, the fear falls away, the blockages fall away, the ideas that the world has the right answer for you falls away, because it's flowing through you. You are not doing, rather, it's a flow that occurs, a divine dance, a lovemaking, actually.
Oh, Rumi and Shams.
Huh?
It's like Rumi and Shams.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, everything is beautiful. Everything becomes a divine experience. And a lot of things that people are really suffering from, which is why, your story was so powerful and so great, is there's all these things are real, when you're in that level of vibration where, you're in suffering, you're in pain, your mind is in control of your experience, or your heart, things that basically don't lead you to that freedom, that truth, divine, God, eternal, the nameless one.
Exactly.
And there's so many ways to get limited on the path, and finding teachers is really important, because there are so many kind of like, pitfalls on the path as well.
Oh, yeah.
Entrapments where people get caught up and they're not able to really reach, and they wonder why they're doing so much but not having that enlightenment, that fire, right? Because when you're enlightened, you're burning like a fire. You no longer exist. You're just a fire burning, right? You're pure fire. You're fire about passion for everything that is life.
Yeah, because you're one with everything and you feel the divine presence in everyone and everything in every moment. And so I can tell you what the most challenging thing for me was, and maybe you can share with everyone what the most challenging thing for you was. The most challenging thing for me was I was so in love with every single person I saw. If I saw any person that wasn't happy, it broke my heart. It took me a while to sort of get used to being able to hear things so clearly, see, feel. It's so intense. It's not easy. If people say it's easy, but it is the only thing to do, and eventually it becomes part of you. Just like these steel plates that are all throughout my body. Eventually they became part of me. You
Exactly.
know, you get used to it because your cells become cells of light. So it's such hot energy. It's physically hot. It's
Yeah, you're fire. You're burning up.
burning up. So share with me, with all of us, what was challenging for you.
Um, I agree. What's challenging after is really getting used to the new experience because you have to learn to also, or basically, you have to break through a next level, which is loving everything which you see as suffering or as bad, right? Because everything being divine, all of that has to be loved too. So we always tell people like you can't have the good without the bad. You can't have those the joy without the sorrow. Sorrow is just basically the end of joy or the beginning or what's right gonna precipitate a joy. And joy is interconnected. So, getting 100% with everything that flows within the divine and really being able to be one with it all and flow in both worlds because that's something that changes for you too.
That is so true because, the old saying, you're in the world, but you're not of it. But then you truly experience that in consciousness. You can see through buildings, you can travel through to so many different dimensions. I mean, I know I can go deep. I can talk to you about this. I mean, it's just, you're just that. You are that. Soham, you are that.
And
It's,
managing, this world, right, as well as the social world and the levels that is, because, when other individuals have not reached where they need to reach yet, they're not able to see.
no, and it's you don't negotiate or try to get anyone to understand it. I didn't share it with anyone for years. Even though I'd been teaching for years, I hadn't, I just said, I just want to stay with my teacher, just do my normal stuff that I've been doing, my books, my positive music, and not share this yet because it's just, I don't feel worthy yet. And it took about 3 years. And then I just had another huge breakthrough where the world just, the sky just opened up. And then it was like, I was told, you do this. But even then, I wanted to make sure 100% that this was working. So I would just say to people, just send me your photograph and tell me what you want me to pray for. And I will just do something. So what I did was people would start sending me their photographs and I'd just gaze into their eyes and all I could see was the divine. And I would be in love with every single photograph. And then I would just hold it so close to me. It was like looking at Yogananda or at Jesus Christ or anyone. It was, the love was so intense. And then all I saw was the divine. And I realized I was connecting with their divine presence. My divine presence was allowing their divine presence to be activated instead of blocked. And then I would do a prayer. I wouldn't do everything that they asked me to do. I just sent an intention that what was ever for their highest divine good. If a lady who couldn't get pregnant, she kept having miscarriages, I would pray, if there's a soul out there that really needs this beautiful Indian couple that is so spiritual to have a beautiful spiritual life being born into this woman's womb. And within a week, she was pregnant, and now she's got 3 kids. So this kept happening over the years, but I experimented because I didn't want to say to the world, hey, come to me and I'll do a light transmission and a prayer if it doesn't work. And through that experimentation, I realized I can be used by the divine with that intention to uplift people. And we have had so many beautiful experiences. And I say to everyone, it is not me. I'm just plugged in. It is the divine presence, the omnipresence that uses our immortal consciousness. We are all one with that. And you could do this. Everyone can do it.
Definitely. That's what I constantly preach here is basically you are the seed and I'm the flower. I'm just here to show you basically your potential. Okay. I'm here to show you what you are to become, where you're on your way to. But the same way that I became a flower, I started as a seed as well. So the same way that I did it, so is it for you. It's for everyone. If you're a person walking around, you are spirit. And so by nature, you're living a spiritual life. It doesn't matter whether you're even aware of it or not, because your life is your consciousness moving around within it. So if you are spirit, which is every being has this opportunity to really experience the divine bliss, which is life.
Exactly. I couldn't have put it more perfectly myself. Well, you are myself, so I did put it perfectly. So, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Of course.
Okay. So, did you have a teacher? What was the spark that ignited all of this for you, Hector?
I did have a teacher. I grew up in a mystical tradition from the Caribbean, a shamanic mystical tradition.
Oh.
And it's a tradition of mysticism, which is the path is to unite with the divine. That's the intention of the path. And I had the wonderful opportunity to grow up with my teachers and get to that point where I had we call it unraveling, right? Because people are just like a ball of yarn, all like, jumbled up, and unraveling to become what we call a straight channel, a channel of the divine force, right? You're just a straight tube for the divine to come through. So that's how I came upon the path, and basically, doing our practices, our meditations, our prayers, all our work to get to where we are now, to where I am now.
Well, that's beautiful. It must have been amazing to be actually brought up with
my teachers,
with your teachers,
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. It's actually, in this path, people often think that like maybe they've suffered too much, maybe they're too, life has been too bad, maybe this or maybe that. But the truth is that in this path, you need suffering in order to be able to reach the divine.
Absolutely.
And
I agree.
why Buddha had to toss away his riches and, live some suffering now in order to become enlightened, right? So getting to grow up and be around my teachers taught me a lot, and losing my teachers eventually because of their own death um, taught me a lot too, and it really gave me a beautiful experience in this life. I've pretty much been all over the globe. I was actually going to be out your way this month, but we're currently going through the COVID situation, and yeah, doing this work.
Well, that's beautiful because you are assisting lots of people, and we will send this podcast to our entire list because this has been so beautiful to meet with someone who actually is on the path, not just on the path, but is it. It's
Yeah, it's not common. We're not
No,
common floating around. But
no.
that's another thing I think that me and Michelle probably want to tell people is like, there's lots of people out here and there's people with really good intentions and really nice individuals, really good-hearted individuals. But there's a lot of people and a lot of things that can get you lost on this path. And finding, enlightened, whole individuals, because that's what it is to be enlightened, is to be truth itself, to be whole itself, to be life itself is not something that's common. It's not something that you're gonna, trip up upon every day. And really taking the opportunity to take invest in yourself, invest in your life, right? But finding someone who can really take you there, because it takes someone who's actually there to be able to take you there. So I'm sure it's
Oh, absolutely. Without my teacher transmitting light to her students. I mean, I had the heart glow, which I realized was an activation of the heart chakra, but I didn't know what all those things were. I was totally non-educated. I was brought up a Catholic. I mean, I must admit, as a child, I was very much in love with Jesus. I was obviously always ready to be on the path. I didn't know. I mean, I would just sit with the nuns and cry with joy. I loved going to
that
Catholic church.
into your heart.
Yeah, but all the rest of my family and all the rest of the Catholics I knew just went because they just went. It wasn't a deep experience for them. It was a deep experience for me.
Yeah, definitely. And well, what would be interesting for you is that our path it has Catholicism within it. So it's a mystical path that is mixed in. It has a lot of Catholic elements. So it's a Catholic shamanic mystical path.
Oh, that
So,
is so cool. I'm totally going to check out all your stuff.
and what is it that's next for you? So what's next for Michelle? Like, what are you up to? What's going on for you? What's next for you?
Well, I'm writing all the time, it seems like, doing live streams. The mystical experience is something that is growing, and I'm doing a lot to grow that and to grow those beautiful seeds into flowers, like you said, to be used by the light for these wonderful people that have been attracted to me, not through someone telling them about it, but just through them feeling it. It's totally a very, very personal connection when you find a teacher, and you may not realize it at first, but that's what's happened to them. And also writing books all the time. My new book is called The Mystical Experience. That won't be out for another couple of months. Doing lots of live events, but until we can get out, I'm doing a lot of live streams. So I'm doing every morning, I do a free webinar or live stream I've been doing since this started for anyone, doing light transmission and prayers for anyone who wants to come on every morning at receivedivinelight.com. That's for anybody. And just to continue, because you never finish, just to continue to it's no words, actually.
Well, that's the beauty of this, right? Once you
Yeah.
get there, there are no words for it.
No,
Just,
there's no words.
truth to God. Just to continue to be a God, guiding it out.
Yeah.
To be the truthing, lifing.
Yeah. What I did do recently, though, Hector, is the first book I ever wrote was called Affirmation Power, and it was me sharing the story of the affirmations. Bob Proctor said, write something so that people will get it. So it's not just the music that you're giving them, so they will understand. So I was giving my old book away at an event last year, and I had no idea that these people, the feedback was like, now I understand affirmations. Now I understand what you mean by meditation. Now I understand. And I thought to myself, redo it. very, very guided to redo it. So I have re-released it, but added more information to it. But it's still basically the same book I wrote all those years ago. And it's called The Magic of Affirmation Power. And in it, I've added a lot of links to some really beautiful other products that I've done that I feel will assist people to be uplifted, especially at this time. And I'm giving all of that away to your students, to your people that listen to you, to your fans, at micheleblood.com/.
Papa Hector.
Papa Hector. Papa Hector.
Yeah. So that's what we wanted to tell you. Michele Blood has been so kind to go ahead and offer all of our listeners, anyone in the audience, the magic of affirmation power at www.micheleblood.com/Papa Hector.
And it's just spelt with one L, Michele. Blood, yes, as in the thing in your veins. It's my father's name, not my fault.
Yeah. And go ahead and get that, receive.divinelight.com, themysticalexperience.com, and micheleblood.com, I believe are all hers, where you can go ahead and check out all her information. So it's been really awesome having you here with us today, Michele.
Hector, again, there are no words, but I will just say awesome, delightful, beautiful, gorgeous, profoundly happy experience to have met you again here right now together. So I thank you for all of the wonderful work that you're doing to bring enlightenment to this world. And I just am very grateful for this moment.
Likewise, and God bless, many blessings.
You
And
too. You too.
to all of our listeners, keep the faith in yourself and stay safe.
Or borrow our faith.
Exactly. That's what we're here for. If you
Yeah.
don't have it, that's why we're here. We have so much abundance. There's enough to take and take. So God bless everyone. Until next time.
Thank you, Hector.